Welcome to Reboot with Dr. Arasi Maran. I'm your host, Dr. Arasi Maran. I'm an interventional cardiologist, but I have decided that I need to take my message beyond the hospital, beyond the cath lab, to the general public and talk about science, evidence based things we can do to make our lives better and reboot our lives and our health at every different point. Today, I'm joined by someone whose story every physician, every professional, every human being needs to hear. Dr. Robyn Tiger. She is a double board certified physician in radiology and lifestyle medicine, and also a trauma informed mind body expert and founder of Stress Free MD. She is just not going to talk about burnout. She has lived it. She's healed from it, and now teaches others to do the same. Her book, Feeling Stressed, is optional, and her retreats and her programs have helped countless individuals, healthcare professionals, and high achievers regain their energy, joy, and health span. We are deep diving into what stress really does to your body and to your brain and how to reverse it from inside out, and practical tools which we can apply to our day to day life. There's no cliches here, it's just real evidence based mind body reboots. With that, Dr. Robyn Tiger, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so great to be here. So happy to share with your audience and get started.
Yes, fantastic. I mean, let's start at the beginning, right? You have a personal story. I usually ask this question at the end of the podcast, but I'm going to do it for you at the beginning. What is your reboot story?
Yeah, my reboot story. You mentioned a little bit about my history. And so let me tell everyone, since we're starting at the beginning, not the end, that there is a very happy ending.
Good. That's good. That's always good to
Very
know.
happy ending. But so no worries there. But to be completely honest, I did the traditional path of going to college and medical school, internship, residency, fellowship, no breaks in between, got a job somewhere in there, got married, had kids, the dog, the house, everything. And during that journey, and I would say when I look back, probably beginning in my residency, I started to develop lots of symptoms that seem really disconnected.
Hmm.
And from the top down, they didn't make sense to me. I developed migraine headaches. I never had headaches like that in my life, with intractable vomiting. I had tinnitus, this ringing in my ears that kept me up at night. I couldn't sleep. I had vertigo, like the whole room, everything would just spin around. I'd slightly turn my head, Dr. Tiger, come look at this. And then like everything would spin, right? I had burning chest pain from reflux. I mean, never had that before. My gums would spontaneously bleed. I thought, what does that have to do with anything? Right? I mean, I would just be talking. I would just be doing nothing, right? And my gums would bleed, which seemed incredibly disconnected. My body hurt. I think of it like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, where it's like oil, oil, oil. Like, please, just somebody relieve me from this unbelievable tension that I was living in. I couldn't digest my food. Like, anything I ate caused my abdomen to distend. It caused pain in my abdomen. My bowel habits were all over the place. I was constipated. I was having diarrhea. I mean, it was back and forth. I couldn't sleep. I was so tired. I would wake up in the morning counting the hours till I get to go back to sleep again. I was really reactive, right? So I would say things I wish I could take back. I didn't even recognize myself. And I developed these really scary intermittent paresthesias where I would have numbness in tingling in my hands and my feet. And it would just come on at the most awful times. I would be driving a car. I couldn't feel the steering wheel. I would be cutting up vegetables with a knife. I couldn't feel the knife in my hand. I would be doing a breast biopsy and I would have the biopsy gun in my hand. And all of a sudden, I'd be right there at the lesion and I couldn't press the button to take the specimen sample. And all of these things were happening over time. It wasn't like I just woke up one day. And I started seeing lots of colleagues, lots of specialists, right? Neurologists, gastroenterologists. I, of course, started with my internist. I was taking all kinds of pills. They call it a pill for an ill, right? I was giving a pill for every single thing I described. All of my labs were normal. All of my imaging studies were normal. And I started to have some really dark thoughts. Like, I can't, I can't spend another day like this. Not that I had planned anything, but I just didn't want to live like this anymore. And I had lost 3 physician friends to suicide during this time period that I described. So all of a sudden, I just had this thought, like, wow, I'm heading down this road. I don't want to head down this road, right? There's a fork in the road here, and I don't want to take the fork that my colleagues and friends took, but I wasn't sure what to do. I thought I was eating pretty healthy. I was working out all the time. I was running races. Like, what's the matter with me? Why can't anybody figure it out? And so that was rock bottom. I saw a mental health care professional, no real help there, even though they were lovely. That wasn't what I needed. And so I started to look outside the box of traditional Western medicine, which we are both trained as Western medicine physicians, and I'm so
Yes.
grateful for Western medicine. But what I come to realize is that there's more than what we learned in our training that is needed sometimes to help our patients, our clients, our friends, our family, ourselves. And so I kept hearing about things like yoga, meditation, which I did a lot of eye rolling. And there might be people listening right now who are doing eye rolling. But I was already doing everything else. And for me, that was for those people down the hall at the gym with the door closed, in weird clothes with weird music, turning upside down, twisting their bodies into strange shapes that radiologists think is not even possible. And I just kept hearing about this 101, this yoga 101 class. And I really had to see it over and over again, advertised in everything I could find, and I just kept rolling my eyes. And one day I just said, I did a little research. It was being taught by an anthropology professor at the local university who owned the studio. So my egotistical, I will admit it, Dr. Brain, left brain, was like, she's got to be credible. She's not Molly Moonbeam. She's probably someone really credible, professor at university. And so I signed up for this class, and I have to tell you that I remember that day so clearly, that very first day. I can't tell you how many cases I read, how many biopsies I did, how many procedures I did. Came home exhausted. I fed my kids, I bathed my kids, I handed them to my husband, and I drove to the studio to be at this class for like 7:30 at night. The whole time I'm like one eye open, questioning why I'm going there, thinking I could be doing so many other things, folding the laundry, prepping for my patient for the next day, spending more time with my husband. Like, what am I doing? And I walked in exhausted, eyes down, not making eye contact, tail between my legs, like, ugh. And at the end of this very first session, I was awake, wasn't tired. I felt calm. My body didn't hurt. I was clear. I was focused. I had no idea what happened. And that was my first inkling into there being more than we were taught in training to help us feel better.
That's fantastic. That's very powerful. In the All of us go through this, right? I cannot tell you like the way I my for me the journey was pretty similar. Not the physical problems, but I would weekends would be dead to me. I literally would sleep Saturday through Sunday and wake up only on Sunday evening with energy, only to start the week on Monday, disappear, work, 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 and no energy by Friday night. And the cycle, my husband's like, something is wrong with you. And anytime anybody told me something was wrong, it was an explosion. It was very reactive, as you would say. I was just having trouble with all my relationships, including with my children. They were scared of me. And I found coaching, then I found stress management, core power yoga. That saved my life, I would say. You know, so yeah, I think every one of us goes through it. Some of us are lucky enough to find that connection which breaks us loose and resets us, but a lot of us are not that lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the education is the missing piece, right? The
Mm-hmm,
education is the
mm-hmm.
missing piece. And I frequently hear our healthcare system is broken. Don't tell me to do anything. It's not my fault. It's the healthcare system. And
Yes.
I say, you're right. And then people look at me like surprised that's my answer. And I say, it's twofold. So we have a broken healthcare system, and I can't fix that. And I don't know if that's going to be fixed in my lifetime. And we can work at the level of the human.
Yes.
And so that second component is what puts you in the driver's seat. And that's what gives you the power to feel better physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And that first class was just my eyes beginning to open to understanding that I was suffering from a chronic case of stress, whopping
Yes.
stress. And that as I continued to take classes and as I dove deeper into this and then into meditation and coaching and lifestyle medicine, and we can start to get into all of that, all of my symptoms went away. Every single one of them. Even the paresthesias, even the dark thoughts, all of them went away. And that stress can show up in so many different ways in each of us. And they seem like disconnected symptoms, and yet these manifestations of stress were all connected to this one diagnosis that all the doctors missed, except for me eventually. Um, and if anyone's listening and you're resonating with any of this, know that you're not alone and that you can feel better. You just need to learn how.
And also, it's not just you need to know how, you need to be open to accepting that. Because, I mean, there are patients who come with all disconnected, varied range of symptoms. And I have tried to tell them, have you thought about thing? And they think I'm stereotyping them. I'm like, I promise you, I'm the last person to stereotype you and put you into this box. I'm literally saying, you are stuck in a box. Can you get yourself out of this box and dig deeper, delve? Can we be our own Sherlock Holmes and figure out and peel these outside layers to get to the root cause of the problem? And I do disappoint some patients when I say that, because they feel they came for a pill, they came for a procedure, they came for a stent, which they thought will save them. But here I am, I'm saying, no, we're going to scratch the surface, peel this rotten layer and peel this rotten layer. And people don't, it's not a very popular suggestion. How do you navigate that part?
Yeah, so first of all, what you're doing is saying, I understand you because I've been there. So that is number one. And whether it's a patient that's a non healthcare professional or whether it's a patient or a client that is a healthcare professional, we come down to what we know in the medical literature because that's where the truth is. That's where the science is. And so we know that 70 to 90% of all symptoms that you experience are secondary to stress. Up to
Yes.
90% of symptoms that patients report to their healthcare professional for are secondary to stress, which is huge. All the things I mentioned. And how many of those things that I mentioned are individuals listening, experiencing
Mm-hmm.
related to stress,
Mm-hmm.
headaches, upset stomach, not sleeping, reflux, pain in your body? I mean, we can go on, right?
Yeah,
And so we
absolutely.
don't always need a pill. So the thing is, I always say the pill's always there. The pill is there. But if you're open to it, can we try something else? You know, and they
Yeah.
have to be open to it. But when we go
Mm-hmm.
back to medical literature, people's eyes are wide open. Up to 90% of symptoms related to stress. Wow, I didn't know that. And then you being, in your profession, right, showing people images, right, showing people images of coronary arteries blocked with plaque, and then showing them images of the arteries no longer blocked with plaque. We can go
Yeah.
back to Dean Ornish's work and back to Esselton and so on. And we can see that lifestyle changes can
Mm-hmm.
allow your body, what you eat, your stress, your exercise, your connection, your sleep, all of these things can help make your body able to get rid of that plaque, right? So, yes, we always have stents and we always have pills and we always have surgeries. And it doesn't mean that you won't need them or that we're taking them away from you, but it's very possible to help you feel better by changing your behaviors. And when you can say it in that way and show people pictures and give them numbers, they're usually like, wow, okay, tell me more about that.
This lifestyle medicine, talk to me about it. What does it entail? What are the components of it? How is it different from what you did in medical school and residency?
Yeah, so I love to paint this picture. I have a cartoon that I show when I give lots of talks. So just imagine this with me. There are two people mopping up a floor of
Mm-hmm.
water. There's a sink and the faucet is on and the water's coming out of the faucet into the sink, overflowing from the sink and then spilling all on the floor. And these two people are mopping up the water and they're mopping up the water and they're mopping up the water. And they're never going to be done mopping up the water. The water just keeps coming and they just keep mopping it up and they just keep mopping it up. And so we can think about medicine, traditional medicine, in the way that we're trained as a disease management system. We can think of our diseases and our illnesses and our symptoms as the water. And so when patients come and they're like, my sugar's high, you get a pill for your sugar, your glucose. My blood pressure's high, you get a pill for your blood pressure. Your, cholesterol's high, you get a pill for your cholesterol. Your back hurts, you get a pill for that. Your stress, you get a pill for that. All these things, right? And so we're managing these diseases, but we're not getting to the root cause of the problem. We're just managing them, not getting to the root cause. So if we look at the opposite end of the spectrum and we come back to the water and we say, what's causing the water all over the floor? We look and we say, what happens if we turn off the faucet?
Mm-hmm.
And turning off the faucet is the root cause of the water. And we can think of turning off the faucet as where lifestyle medicine comes into play. And that's working at the opposite end of the spectrum, not disease management, but root cause of disease, illness, symptoms, and so on. And that's what I did with my symptoms and illnesses. Well, what's causing all of this? These pills aren't helping. They're making me feel sicker. Why am I having all these symptoms? What is behind it? For me, it was stress, right? There's not to say that sometimes there isn't a reason why we need a medication or a procedure, but
Sure,
again,
sure.
coming back to that 70s, 90% of what we just talked about, right? Causing symptoms, illnesses, and so on. So in lifestyle medicine in about 2004 is when it really started to come into play, whereas a bunch of physicians got together and said, we're noticing that we want to start to focus on the cause of all of these symptoms, illnesses, and diseases. And we're seeing in the literature that behaviors are making a difference. And these key behaviors, we call them lifestyle medicine pillars, are stress management, nourishing sleep, exercise, social connection, healthful nutrition, and avoiding risky substances. And when they put all of that together, research showed over and over again that not only were these things helping to prevent illness, but they're actually reversing and sometimes completely treating illness and symptoms. And so lifestyle medicine is very exciting. It's a newer subspecialty of medicine. It's a board certification, but it's working at the opposite end. It's working to turn the faucet off. It's working to get to the root cause of what's happening so you can actually prevent, reverse, and sometimes treat symptoms, illnesses, and diseases. So a very exciting time to help patients get in the driver's seat of their life and not just be the recipient of medications and procedures and so on, but wait, can I do something for myself to make myself feel better and not need all those things, knowing that they're there for me in case I still need them.
Yes, yes. So it's almost like giving the agency back to the patients, that they have control and they get to redirect the life they want to. And a lot of patients, no one likes to be on pills, no one wants to be hooked on to medications. And I think this is interesting that there is a branch, and I'm glad you guys all got together. And so what would the competence be like if a patient comes to you? What happens?
Yeah, well, again, going back to those numbers, so 80% of healthcare costs in this country are for chronic diseases. And
Yeah.
80% of chronic disease is caused by our behaviors. That's
Yes.
huge, right? And again, when you tell patients that, it's like, wow, okay, so if I can change my behaviors, I can actually change how I'm feeling. And type 2 diabetes, for example, is completely related to behaviors, not genetic. Oh, runs in my family. No, it doesn't. It's completely related to behaviors, which is exciting because you can reverse it, right? So this is an example. So when I work with clients, when they come to me, patients, first we do an assessment, and I give them a short assessment. It's actually a lifestyle medicine assessment, and it helps to really take this bird's eye view of what's going on in their life with relation to these pillars. Right now, I work a lot with physicians and other healthcare professionals, really helping them with their own health so then they can help the people that they
Yes.
serve, right? And so we get a bird's eye view, and it's really eye-opening to see where they're falling with respect to their stress levels and their sleep and their nutrition, their exercise, their connection. And if they're over drinking or using recreational drugs, or I just call them escapes. I've worked with surgeons that over crochet, and I work with military veterans that over garden. And, it's just sometimes you're doing what you think are completely benign behaviors, but you're doing too much of them to escape the thing that you don't want to feel. Right.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
so really understanding where you are there, and then, working with the body with stress relief techniques, stress being the umbrella under which all those other behaviors are chosen. So stress determines what you're eating, if you're sleeping, if you're connecting, if you're exercising properly, if you're reaching for external substances, or if you are escaping. And then weaving that in with life coaching. You mentioned coaching and life coaching and understanding how the brain works. I what do we do as physicians? We're hungry for knowledge, and so I studied all the things that were helping me. I studied yoga, became a teacher, and then a yoga therapist. I studied meditation and became certified in meditation, and then the brain, working in life coaching and becoming certified as a life coach, and putting that all together, because it's one thing to learn about what you need to do to feel better. It's another thing to understand how to get there. And
Yes.
so being able to use your thoughts and having the behavior change steps that you can take to create those changes is so very important.
So, do they meet you weekly, monthly, or how does your client relationship go?
Yes, so if I work with someone one-on-one, usually we meet weekly. If they're healthcare professionals, sometimes something comes up, they have an emergency or what have you. Sometimes it might be an every other week
Yes,
thing, but
yes.
in general, we try to meet weekly. And sometimes I coach groups, so I
Yeah.
coach different groups. I coach groups that are in healthcare, my medical society, other organizations. I coach groups
Interesting.
outside of medicine as well when they reach out. And so it just depends on the group or the individual and
Yeah.
what's important to them and what they're trying to achieve.
It's interesting. Jonathan Fisher, I saw that you and him are collaborating and doing something. He was in the podcast and he talked about
Oh,
his burnout and how he recovered from it. And it was a beautiful session. He actually came to Charleston and gave grand rounds as well. It was very, very valuable. So now let's go back to the science of stress. Okay. I mean, 80% of chronic diseases caused by stress. So, how does I kind of almost sometimes, I don't know if chicken came first or egg came first. We made poor, poor choices, or we work too hard and therefore we are stressed out. And because we're stressed out, we eat badly. And because we eat badly, we are unable to sleep and therefore we are more stressed out. And, how do we, what is the interplay, and what are the steps you can do to break that interplay?
yeah. For first, shout out to Jonathan, who is a dear friend of mine. And yes, we collaborate on retreats together, and he's incredible. So grateful to have him in my life, in case you're listening, Jonathan. And it's so interesting. So stress and the other pillars of lifestyle medicine that you just described have this bi-directional relationship. What do I mean by that? When you are stressed, okay, who listening when you're stressed goes into your kitchen and pulls out from your refrigerator a piece of celery? Said no one ever, right?
Yes.
No. Okay, so when you are stressed, you are craving immediate energy because your brain can't tell the difference between a real emergency and something that your thoughts are offering you. And so your cascade, your stress response, your hypothalamus pituitary axis goes into play, and your stress hormones come out, and you are craving immediate energy so you can run away from that wild animal that's not really chasing you, or lift that really heavy object off that person you love that's not really happening, but your body still goes through the same response. And so you're craving immediate energy, which comes in the form of sugars and fats. And so you are craving ice cream, cake, cookies, french fries, chips, all these things that have sugars and fats and so on, right? So you're not reaching for that piece of celery when you're feeling stressed. No. And when you eat foods that have lots of chemicals, added sugars, and saturated fats, the research tells us that you actually feel more anxious, stressed, and depressed. So there's that bidirectionality there. Bidirectionality of stress with respect to sleep is, as you mentioned, when you're stressed, you're not sleeping well. And when you're not sleeping well and you're tired, and causes you to feel more anxious and stressed. When you're stressed, who's a nice person to be around? Who listening here is a really nice person to be around when they're stressed? Said no one, right?
Yes.
So when you're stressed, you're doing one of two things. You are either saying things you wish you could take back, so you're reactive in that way, or you're isolating. You're not with other people. And whether you're being reactive or you're isolating, you're not connecting. And when you're not connecting with other people, it makes you feel more stressed. When you're feeling stressed, you are not moving your body properly. And that could be in one of two ways. One is you're not exercising at all or barely, or two is you may be over exercising, which, truth be told, I was in that
Yeah.
category. I was over exercising all the time just to not feel the thing I didn't want to feel, right? And so when you are not exercising properly, it causes you to feel more stressed. When you're stressed, you're more likely to reach for external substances. You're not going to
Yes.
have one glass of wine. You're going to come home and you're going to want to drink the whole bottle, for
Yeah,
example, right?
absolutely.
Maybe using recreational drugs. When you're doing all those things, you're going to feel more stressed. And so we can see that there's this bidirectionality between stress and the other lifestyle medicine pillars and behaviors. They directly affect each other, but stress really is the umbrella under which the other behaviors are determined.
Fantastic. I mean, it makes it's so intuitive and it makes absolute sense. I think everyone who's listening to this right now knows that. It's not that you don't know what's the problem is. You don't know how to solve the problem and how to take the next step to free yourself of this problem. Which brings me to the next topic I would like to discuss: your bottom up, top down framework. You've created this framework for stress relief. What does it mean? And, share us a few tips or tricks as to what this would do for us.
Yeah, so I get a lot of clients, patients, clients, so on, that come to me and say, like, I've been working with a life coach, but I'm just not getting better. I'm still putting on the weight. I'm still stressed out. I'm still not sleeping. I'm still not a nice person to be around. All these things. I'm still like yelling at my kids, kicking the dog, whatever. My staff doesn't want to be around me. I don't, and so on. And so what I have found is that we know that we have at least 60,000 thoughts per day. Most of them not so nice. And many of those not so nice thoughts are on repeat, right? And they're talking to us all the time. And so it can be really hard to work with those thoughts with a dysregulated nervous system. If you are shaking, if you are sweating, if you're feeling hot, If your heart is racing and you have palpitations out of your chest, if you're breathing in a really shallow way, right? If you have all your body's tense, if you have all these symptoms in your body, this physiologic changes that are happening when you're feeling stressed, it can be really hard to work with those thoughts. And what I found to be much more effective is to create homeostasis in your body, or balance in your body's nervous system first, which is what I call bottom up. Once you are feeling calmer in your body, then you can actually work with your thoughts
Okay.
and have much more
Top
effective
down.
coaching top down. When we start at top down, I mean, think about when you're really stressed out. Someone says something to you that's really upsetting you. Something's going on in the community, the world, a case didn't go right, or you don't even know. Sometimes you don't even know what it is. It's
Yeah.
subconscious, right? You can't possibly start to deal with any of those thoughts that your brain's having when you are so dysregulated in your body. And so I have found that bottom up, top down in that order is very, very effective. And it helps you to get the results that you really want to achieve.
So, one or two simple body based techniques. What can people do in the middle of the day to, decompress or get closer to homeostasis? Even if they don't achieve homeostasis, can they get closer to homeostasis?
Yeah, so we want to go from disembodied to re-embodied. And disembodied is like, when you walk in, you hit your toe, you walk into something, you're like, you don't even realize where that thing was that you stepped your toe on, or you banged something, or you open a drawer and you don't remember why you opened it, went into a room, you forget why you went. That's when you're just living between your ears. That's those 60,000 thoughts, right? So you are disembodied. You have no idea what's going on below your ears. You have no idea, right? And so if I said to you right now, if I said, feel your clothing touching your body, and you're like, okay, I can now feel my clothing touching my body. Now, that was because I brought your attention to it. Your brain was already aware of that sensation.
Yes.
10% of our senses we are conscious of at all times, and 90% of our senses we are not conscious of at all. That's subconscious. For example, the feeling of your clothing touching your body.
Yes.
So if we say, wow, this information is coming in from your 5 friends, your sight, your hearing, your smelling, your taste, your sense of feeling, this stuff's coming into your brain all the time, but you're only aware of about 10% of it. But there's 90% of those sensations that are coming into your body that you're not aware of. What happens if we start to bring our attention to those sensations? You can't think a thought and feel a feeling in your body at the same time.
Come again. You can't think a
Think a
thought.
thought and feel a feeling in your body at the same time. I know you're trying. I know
Yeah,
Robyn's
I'm
trying
very.
right now. And this is really, really amazing. This is amazing. So when I said sense your clothing touching your body, all you could do was focus on that sensation. You weren't thinking anything at that moment.
True. That's correct.
Yes. And so we can use that as an example of a really helpful tool to bring us back into our body from busy thinking mind, drawing attention to what I call our 5 friends or our 5 senses. And you don't have to do all 5, you can choose one. So if you bring your attention to the sensation of touch, your clothing touching your body, the sensation of the air, temperature of the air on your skin that's not covered. If you bring your attention to what's supporting your body, if you're sitting at your chair, what parts of your body are touching your chair? If you're standing beneath your feet, what's that support feel like? If you bring your attention to the taste in your mouth and the last thing you ate or drank, the sounds that you're hearing, my voice, your voice, anything else in the room, anything outside of the space that you're in. If you bring your attention to anything you're smelling, that could be coming from your skin, your clothing, your hair, the air that's surrounding your body. If you bring your attention to anything that you're seeing, and even if your eyes are closed, what are you seeing? lights, colors, shadows, so on. Once we bring our attention to these sensations, when we're wigging out about something, even if we
Mm-hmm.
just pick one thing, like I said to you, feel your clothing touching your body, we can come out of busy thinking mind. So being mindful in a very quick way doesn't require
Yes.
sitting in an uncomfortable position with your eyes closed and your hands. People think, meditation, just doing that, just me saying to you, feel your clothing touching your body, is mindfulness, is meditation right
Yes.
there. So anyone who said they can't meditate, you just did, right? And so one tool that you can use is tapping into that 90% of senses coming into your brain that you are not aware of, and becoming aware of them. Not being able to think and feel at the same time means that you can come out of busy thinking mind and come back into your body. So that's just one of thousands of tools that you can do.
That was very powerful. Let me just start there because I had to go back and think what you were trying to explain to me, and it's so simple but yet so powerful. So that was really fantastic. And honestly, I think that's what mindfulness teaches you, but it is practicing it frequent enough so that you have it to lean back when you're stressed out is a very major factor, because we know this but we don't remember to use it when you're stressed out and you get disembodied as you speak. And I think for me, as you said, right, box breathing, just focus, like, the change of temperature with the air entering. And for me, again, when I'm wearing a mask, it's also more warmer, right, because you're breathing behind a mask. And that's what I use to calm myself down when I need that. So it's simple but yet so powerful. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing that.
No,
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
you're so right. Thank you for acknowledging that and for sharing what you do as well. And breathing, there are so many different breathing tools that we could talk about. But somebody might be saying, "Okay, I kind of get what you're saying about these senses, but like how do I apply that, to what I'm doing?" And you talk about the mask. So like, say for a surgeon client of mine, when you're scrubbing in, feeling your hands touching one another, feeling the water on your hand and the temperature of the water on your hand, smelling the soap, hearing the sound of the water that's coming out of the faucet and the sound that your hands are making as you scrub, and so on. So we can bring in those sensations in anything we're doing. We can do it when we're eating. Say you're super busy, it's a very busy work day, and you're eating an energy bar. Now, who knows what it's like to go to take a bite of that bar and you're like, where did it go? You
Yeah.
don't even remember eating it,
Yes.
right? And so even if you only have a minute to eat, that can become a time when you're feeling calmer, because you're like, what does it feel like in your hand? What does it smell like? Listen to the sound of the wrapper. When you take a bite, what does it feel like in your mouth? What are you tasting? And so on. And so it could be so simple and so quick, and you're doing it with your everyday activities that you're doing anyway. And it's not really taking any more time. You're just paying attention on purpose, which is what mindfulness is. And again, you can't think a thought and feel a feeling at the same time. So when you are scrubbing in for that case and you're super, super stressed, well, when you bring your attention to those senses, you come out of busy thinking mind and into your body and create space in your mind, create space in your body. If you're doing it with your energy bar, same thing, because I
Yeah.
call that the empty wrapper syndrome. The empty wrapper syndrome is when your wrapper's empty and you don't remember eating it. you know and so you know and so
That's so true.
you know so this is just one example. And the breathing, we could talk about that. There's so many different
Sure,
ways that we
sure.
can breathe. It can allow you to feel calmer, the way that you move, and so on. But that's really the basis of how can we tap into our own body's anatomy and physiology to come into balance, to bring our autonomic or automatic nervous system stress and relaxation responses into balance. So then when we're in that place of calm, we can start to listen to the thoughts that our brain is telling us and start to do some life coaching skills, use our life coaching skills tools to work with the thoughts that we're having.
it's I'm kind of like slightly surprised, or maybe I shouldn't be so surprised when you talked about the scrubbing piece of it, because that's something else. Again, we all do. Like I scrub with the alcohol in my hands, and I feel the chillness, and I just shut down completely. Wear the gloves. That's my moment. Bring it all together, and I'm sure every person can find a moment like that, whether they get into the car, where they are behind the traffic light and so much road rage happens. Oh, damn, I missed the light. Instead, can you be like, I missed the light? What's happening? Who's driving in the car next to me? What color dress are they wearing? Or whatever, who's the cyclist? Or and simple tools just to get your resting heart rate down, even by 5 beats, will make a big, big difference. It's finding meaning in simple things, and calmness in simple things is what I think you're trying to tell us, teach us all here right now, I think.
Exactly. When you're in the car, and someone cuts in front of you, or you're
Hmm.
late, or you're in line waiting, whatever it is, you're feeling your hands touching the steering wheel, right?
Yeah,
You're feeling
yeah.
your body touching the
Just feel
seat.
that.
You're listening, all the things, right? Whether you
Hmm.
can do it when you're folding the laundry, when you're washing the dishes, when you're emptying the dishwasher, all these things, when you're walking the dog, don't be on your phone. Don't have a
Yeah.
podcast, even mine, in your ears, right? Be outside, hear everything, smell everything, see everything. You come back, and then you are so much more effective and so much more efficient, and you can get things done when you
Done.
have that
Yes.
focus and concentration. You're like, what was so difficult? And then all of a sudden, all these things that seem like difficult problems you can start to solve. It's
So
amazing. Yeah.
it's amazing. It is. It is. It is. So, there has to be, what are the simple one or two things people who are listening to this can start practicing? You talked about something to do in the car. Are there other tips you can tell them? Just couple, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, since just piggybacking on what we're saying, I frequently hear, as soon as my alarm goes off, I am so full of anxiety and stress. I just feel stressed and anxious from the moment my alarm goes off in the morning, right? And so these tools that we're talking about today can start right there in bed. Before you get out of bed, before you get out of bed, you can apply the 5 friends. You can invite them in.
Yes.
Take a moment when you're still in bed to feel the delicious sheets and blankets surrounding you. Feel the pillow beneath your head. Notice the sounds, and the sound may be quiet. Maybe you're just tuning into the actual quiet, or maybe you're just hearing the sound of yourself breathing. And, noticing anything that you see. If your eyes are still closed, which I invite you to do, again, what are you seeing? What colors, shapes, textures, and so on, the light from the window. So start to bring in all of your senses, smelling and so on, and notice the shift that happens in such a short period of time in doing that before you get out of bed. Then when you step out of bed, don't race to the bathroom. Stand there, feel your feet touching the ground, feel the air on your skin, and so on. And as you walk yourself into the bathroom, you can do all of this again when you're brushing your teeth. As you brush your teeth, what does it feel like? Don't be on your phone with one finger and brushing your
Yeah.
teeth, right? Your email's not going anywhere, right? Take a moment, taste the toothpaste. Feel the toothbrush in your mouth. Feel your feet touching the ground. Maybe the floor is cold if your feet are bare. Notice that. All of these things. So, what I say is this can begin as soon as you wake up, because how many people out there listening feel anxious as
Oh,
soon
yeah.
as they wake up? So, this is just an example of how to apply it first thing in the
On a
morning,
database.
right? And
Fantastic.
then again, all throughout the day. And then, yes, there are breathing exercises, there's movement, there's so on, that thousands of other tools that we could talk about. But since we want to, start with one thing and learn this one thing and see how you can implement it in so many different ways, I would start there.
Yeah, this is fabulous for multiple reasons, but I'll highlight one reason which is kind of personal to me. On October 1st, I kind of did like a 90-day reset or a 90-day reboot for whoever wants to do it. There's no group. I'm not that organized to have a group and all of that. I just said it on my Instagram page. Why don't we do a 90-day reset? And in these 90 days, the personal challenge for myself was at least to have 40 workout sessions, okay, get 5,000 to 6,000 steps per day, 8 hours of sleep. Well, October is gone. I have done 13 workout sessions, one three. I wanted 15, but I couldn't get there. 13 workout session. Getting steps is hard. I mean, I'm getting 4,000, 5,000, but I'm not getting my 6,000 mark, but it's all arbitrary. So I'm like, this is what I'm getting. Sleep is, I have found the most difficult to get 8 hours of sleep. My average is 6 to 6.5 hours, and the lowest being 5 hours. And mindfulness practice, this 10-day block is mindfulness practice and freed, kind of being mindful, not just about what you feel, what you see, etc. Mindfully staying away from social media and screens. So what you're saying completely resonates with the face of the reboot protocol, which we are doing right now. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I'm happy that you're doing this reboot. I want to draw attention to something you're saying, though, in that you're not hitting the numbers that you wanted to hit. So here's the example that we talked about earlier is when you have the knowledge that these are the behaviors you want to implement,
Hmm.
but you don't know how to effectively implement the behaviors. So
Yes.
what I teach with my clients in my programs, on my retreats, and all the things on my podcast and so on is actually we take a step before that and learn the steps of behavior change. And then once you learn those steps, you can apply them effectively to the behavior you want to change and then get the result that you want.
Oh,
So there is
fantastic.
some information, there's education, there's something to learn before so that
Hmm.
you can actually be successful in the thing that you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the struggle, right? Like you are doing so many things. What am I prioritizing? So basically, when I reviewed my 30 days, I was like, okay, I'm prioritizing way more on working out because that's happening almost every other day, but I'm not prioritizing on the other stuff. So I'm like, okay, give myself grace. It's not the end of the world. Let me see what I can balance it for the next 30 days. That's how it is. And as you said, the mindfulness piece is the key, and more energy needs to go on that. So I think overall in life, I think not stressing out about, oh, I'm not hitting my metrics, and being like, okay, I'm going to find my way, figure out my way, or go to someone who can show me the way. And that's what it is. And I think the message here is don't settle down for what's not working. And if it's not working, find ways and means to find the help and prioritize your health. I think that's the part which most people seem to ignore. And like how you ignored till you rolled your eyes and went to the yoga class, or all of us are doing, just not ignore yourself.
Yeah, and celebrate what's going right. So instead of
Yes.
saying to yourself, I took this challenge and I only did this many workouts, why don't we celebrate the workouts that you did do? I did this many workouts,
Yeah.
and it's this many more than I would have done otherwise.
Yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely.
we're celebrating what is going right and celebrating what you are doing right. And research even shows that doing something is better than not doing anything at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, with all that said, if I'm going to ask you a deep question and a bunch of fun questions, okay, let's
Okay.
go with that. The deep question here is, if you could redesign medical training, what would it look like if you had the option to do it? The power is with you.
Yeah, I would include everything we're talking about focused on lifestyle medicine, how to care for oneself, as the intracurricular component to self-care education. So, we don't want at the very beginning, and I work with a lot of medical students as well, right? And they start day one with imposter syndrome and they're being beaten down and they're not taught how to take care of themselves. They're eating badly, they're not sleeping, they're
Hmm.
stressed
Hmm.
out, they're not nice people to be around, all these things, right? And over drinking and whatnot. And the interesting thing is that research shows that they studied individuals who graduated college who were going into medical school and individuals who graduated college who were not going into medical school. And the thinking would be, oh, the students going to medical school are so burned out already because they worked so hard in college and they killed themselves to get to medical school that they're already burned out, stressed out, depressed, and so on. And they're entering medical school in that way. But the studies show the exact opposite. The studies
Hmm.
showed that the students that are entering medical school actually had a much higher level of health and well being than the students that weren't going to medical school. And so, what that tells us is that it's the process of the training that's creating this problem.
Yes.
And so, we need to get in there early
Hmm.
and create the education. And some medical schools do have programs right now, just a few throughout the country, hoping for more, where these points, these pillars are being infused into the curriculum. And what's going to happen then is that those medical students are going to come out as physicians and they're going to be teaching their patients, their family, their friends, and so on, what they've learned. And research shows that if a physician is demonstrating healthful behaviors, two things happen. One, a patient is more likely to emulate, to do what that physician's doing. And two, a physician is more likely to educate the patient on the
Yes.
things that they're doing. I mean, it seems like common sense, and we don't need medical literature to show us this, but medical literature is showing us this because we do need facts, right? And so I would create a medical school where the whole person is being taken care of from day one.
I mean, that's the absolute truth. What kind of a system has created a group of people to almost self sacrifice their mental health, personal hygiene, financial health, everything to treat other people and improve their health? Like I'm an interventional cardiologist. I'm exposed to radiation all the time, and I keep telling them how many CEOs of any company will expose themselves to ionizing radiation for the betterment of another person, right? But here we are, radiologists, cardiologists, orthopedic surgeons, pain specialists, we're all exposed to radiation. Not, I mean, there's not enough money where, if so, how much money can you give a person? Oh, you're going to get cancer one day, but I'll give you $1 million. It's not worth it. But but we have been trained, like almost brainwashed, to take on the personal risk for the sake of others. But no one ever taught us during our formative years of education how to take care of ourselves, how to protect our mental health, and which is why physician suicide is so high and it's a crime. And I'm so glad Jonathan Fisher and you and Asim Desai, there are so many physicians now championing this cause and taking this message. Thank you very much for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping to spread it as well and for all you do.
Yeah. So now let's go to the fun part. Enough with the deep stuff. Okay. All right. So stress management can be completely eliminated if you manage your schedule well. True or false?
We false. we we can't prevent stress from happening,
Yes.
but we can prevent how we feel about it. So that's why my book is called Feeling Stressed is Optional.
Optional.
Feeling
Yes.
stressed is optional. Stress isn't optional. So
Yes.
we can't prevent stress from happening, whether it's a thought we're having or whether it's something that's happening outside of us. But we can determine how we want to feel about it by using our tools.
See, I think the reason for this question comes from most people think stress management is almost like time management, calendar management. So if they
Mm,
time and manage their calendar well, life is not going to be stressed out at all. I think,
no.
as you said, it's a completely false statement. Stress is going to be there, and how you respond to stress is the options you're talking about. So,
Yeah, you can be.
fantastic.
Yeah, you can be someone that has two things on your schedule and be super stressed out, and you can be someone that has 100 things on your schedule and be completely fine, right? And
Yeah,
so it's
it's
not
it's
about that.
a
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, I think you'll enjoy this question. Your body knows you are stressed before your brain does.
Sometimes that's true. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
have this bidirectionality. We talked about the bidirectionality of stress and other pillars. We have bidirectionality between your brain and your body all the time. So sometimes you're stressed, you have a stressful thought that creates stress in your body, but sometimes your body's sensing that before your brain knows what's going on. And there's a lot of research in heart math, which you may be aware of, where they put, electrodes on someone's heart and electrodes on someone's brain. And sometimes the heart fires first before the brain catches up.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be saying, well, what is she talking about? Well, have you ever walked in a room and you just felt anxious or stressed? You get a feeling, a heaviness, a something. Like sometimes you feel that, your heart feels that first. So sometimes we feel in our body before we have a
Absolutely.
thought.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. So you might enjoy this one too. Burnout happens to only to people who work too hard.
False. Yeah, I mean there are people that feel burned out that don't seem to be doing too much, right? Again, so there causes of burnout, it's getting to that root cause. What is it?
Yes, yes,
What is it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this question, we've talked about it, but let me ask you that. You can actually train your nervous system like a muscle. True or false?
True. We create neuroplasticity, right? So when we practice our tools, we're creating new neural pathways and they're strengthening the neural pathways that we have, just like we can strengthen our muscle fibers. So when you practice a tool over and over again, when you need to pull that tool out, when something's happening, it will work more quickly. Just like a muscle will
Yes.
work more strongly after you've, strengthened it when you need it.
Yes, fantastic. Well, Dr. Tiger, thank you so much. It has been a really wonderful episode with mindfulness practice for me as well. So it was interesting. So you have reminded us that health is not just about lab values and tests, but it is more about alignment, awareness, and agency. And it's so valuable. It's unfortunately very underrated, but it needs to come to the forefront. And most of us, if not all of us, should be listening to your podcast. Please follow Dr. Robyn Tiger. She has a podcast at stressfreemd.net, and Feeling Stressed is Optional. That's a book. And of course, you have other courses and retreats which happen as well. Thank you so much for this.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So remember, everyone, your stress response is not a life sentence. Your health is truly in your hands. Don't take it for granted. Look for answers and dig deep and find your reboot. Until then, it is Dr. Arasi Maran with Reboot with Dr. Arasi Maran.